Rule one of hacking is do not get caught. Now, again, when I say hacking, I'm not telling you how to be a cyber criminal. I am telling you how hackers do it, because it is just as important as you understanding how bad guys are, is you understanding how good guys are. Because why? Because being a good guy requires to understand how the bad guys work. So if you understand how a hacker works, you can better protect against a hacker. So to know how to effectively protect a base, you need to know how people effectively attack a base. Okay, so we're defending a computer, and so now we need to understand how people attack computers. So I'm going to show you exactly what the hackers are doing, the bad guys, so that way you can be a good guy. So first of all, what the attackers are going to be doing is they're going to be using proxies, and especially VPNs, because VPNs are a very simple way to go about hiding your initial request address, and that's your IP address, your internet protocol address. So first of all, let's understand what is IP address. It's going to be really important for you to fully understand what an IP address is in order for you to be able to know how they get blocked, what you can do with them. And eventually we'll get into ranges, and I'll show you kind of how you can work around with host names and ranges to block some bad traffic. But first of all, let's go ahead and understand that IP addresses are used to indicate that the device is a server. It could be just a normal computer system like desktop workstation. Basically, everybody has an IP address on a network. So in a case where you pick an IP address and it stays, it's called a static IP address. In a case where you're using DHCP, that's going to be like a dynamic IP address where your computer sends a request and you get an IP address leased out to you, and that could be for a duration of a day. Your IP could be leased out for an hour. It's really kind of like up to the configuration between the client and the server. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about the networking part of hacking, and that's not super important right up at the very forefront. All that you need to know is that basically an IP address online is kind of like your phone number, except for your computer. So think of this 173.205 address as that's kind of like my internet phone number. So I can say, what's my IP to Google, and it's going to actually go ahead and tell me up here at the top. So this matches this. I have firewall mode on. If for some reason a malicious attacker were to DDoS me offline, this firewall mode on my VPN solution here would not allow me to auto reconnect. That's kind of one way that hackers will have wars with each other, is like one hacker will piss off another hacker, and one of them will end up launching a DDoS attack. Basically, a lot of times it looks like a botnet. It could be housed within an IRC channel, and inside the IRC channel, you got all these bots. So let me see if I can show you what an IRC channel botnet kind of looks like. There's got to be one. So here's a good example of an IRC botnet. If I can go ahead and copy the image address to really get that blown up for you. Here we go. We've got, you can see all these X-ray bots, and then they've got random letters or numbers next to them. And then basically inside of here, this guy would he would be like channel operator. So like there's Trippin and McCree. Now, I don't know these guys. I also do not know X-ray, but I would be willing to definitely bet that these guys, whoever created this botnet, maybe they set it up as an example, or maybe it's a real botnet. I have no idea exactly. All I know is that for sure this is kind of what a botnet can look like. Each one of these list items is a user. So obviously all the X-ray bot users here would all be bots. Now, you can see that the scroll bar is not that big. I personally, in my days, have seen someone connect in, and this scroll bar gets like as small as up here. So you scroll all the way down, and you're just like, holy shit, dude, that's a lot of bots. What can happen is a guy types a command in here, And when a guy types a command in here, it could be like attack IP address. Remember that whole IP address is kind of like your internet phone number. What do you think would happen if someone typed like IP address attack and then your phone number, and then it sends a request out to all these bots for them to start flooding the piss out of your phone number? You think maybe your phone number is going to kind of get a little bit busy there, and maybe it'll even disconnect? Well, it is very possible, and that's typically referred to as we hit him offline, or that guy's getting hit offline, right? So, I mean, that's kind of like the hacker slang or whatnot, the jargon, whatever you want to call it. That guy's going to get DDoSed, that guy's going to get hit offline, throwing packets, yeah, so using a booter, using a botnet on you, that type of stuff. I'm trying to really think of like all the other terms and stuff, but I mean, for the most part, that's kind of like really a lot of it that I'm familiar with. But anyway, so yeah, an IRC botnet is a collection of machines infected with malware that can be controlled remotely via an IRC channel. Very well summarized by Zscaler. Perfect definition there. Anyway, where I was going with that is like, obviously, if someone hits off my VPN, I can just go ahead and drop this list down, and I can just select a different one, right? So if I wanted to, for example, stay in US West, I could, or I could go up to US East. I have a list of different different areas I could connect in through the United Kingdom. I don't have to worry if someone gets this IP address. If someone gets my real computers or my real network's IP address, I should say, then I do have to worry, because if the person consistently keeps hitting me offline, then can I connect to any of these if my main IP address is getting hit offline? No, I cannot. So it's really vital when you're like an online attacker or hacker, whether you're a malicious hacker or even just any normal person on the internet. A VPN provides protection to hide, or I should say mask, your original IP address. So it's almost like a tunnel of sorts for your internet traffic to flow through to get to the destination and then back, so vice versa, right? Now, we've talked quite a bit about VPNs, so you should have somewhat of a good idea now how VPNs work, but it's important to know that there's multiple layers to a VPN, and so you can actually perform other types of obfuscations and mitigate people obtaining your IP address even further. One way that a lot of people will do that is by using something called the Tor browser. Now, a Tor browser is basically a package that's set up. You go over to the Tor website, and you are able to download. You're able to download a Tor browser and get it up and running. And it's kind of, if I remember correctly, it's basically a fork of, I thought it was a fork of Firefox. Now, I'm not 100% positive, so do not quote me, but I do know for sure that you can download this browser and it will start using Tor exit nodes for your traffic. And the Tor network is just all kind of all split apart into all these different Tor exit nodes, and you'll bounce across through different areas to get to the target through a Tor exit node. It's really interesting, and I think maybe if I can show you like a diagram, that would be really good. So right here, this looks like a pretty good image. I'm gonna copy this image location and blow it up real nice for you. So with Tor, basically Alice's Tor client picks a random path to destination server. Green links are encrypted, red links are in the clear. So right here we've got Alice going through random paths here, and then it gets over here to Bob, right? So that's this is all an encrypted link here, but then you've got your unencrypted link here from the Tor exit node out to Bob, right? So what this kind of means, right, is that if, and sorry, I'll stop saying the word right. I know that I say okay and yeah and right, and I'm going to stop. I'm going to start being more professional with my talking and only use big boy words now. Anyway, Alice is going through random destinations, random paths here, and then she gets to the point where Alice is trying to talk to Bob. What if Alice is using FTP or HTTP and provides a username and password? She's going safe, safe, safe. We're at the Tor exit node. Uh-oh. Boom. Okay, so now Bob has it. But what about over here? Does the Tor exit node maybe have some of this traffic? The answer is actually, from my understanding, yes. So it's a little bit dangerous. And by the way, big shout out to EFF. Absolutely awesome organization, EFF. And they did a really good job at highlighting how that works. So this is how Tor works 2. This is how Tor works 1. So not sure. Step 1, Alice's Tor client obtains a list of Tor nodes from a directory server. Okay, yeah, so this is actually how it starts off. This is true. Right here, when you initially start connecting to the Tor network, Alice's Tor client obtains a list of Tor nodes from a directory server. So Dave is like the directory server, and then once the directory server is gathered up over to Alice's Tor client, then Alice knows to take a random path, and it could be like this, and then to Bob, right? So again, just be careful because Tor exit nodes can be set up strategically by the FBI and anyone else doing research of what Tor traffic is. Then if you're using any unencrypted protocols, chances are the exit node has gotcha. So that's kind of a danger. Tor exit node decrypt. So Tor uses a routing method called onion routing. Much like an onion, each message, the core of the onion, is covered with layers of encryption. Your message is encrypted several times before it leaves your device. Node A can only decrypt or peel the layer A, under which it would see the address of the next node. After the packet reaches the next node, it can only decrypt, peel layer B, and so on. For each layer, you use the respective node's public key, so only that exact node can decrypt the layer with its own private key. When the message reaches the exit node, all of the layers have been decrypted, and the message is now plain text. It could also be encrypted if you're communicating with the server under SSL. So it could be encrypted if you are communicating with the server under SSL. That's an important part to know here. So this is a really good image, as this guy is making it very clear. So yeah, you've basically got source, and it peels away the layers as it goes from A, B to C, and then eventually it's getting to its destination. It peels away the layers off the message. Yeah, this is a lovely image, but basically it uses onion routing to peel off layers of the message encryption using keys, and the way that the whole entire onion routing is set up. It basically just allows the exit node to have access to unencrypted traffic, assuming that you're not using SSL or otherwise encrypting your messages between the source and the destination, right? So really simple. Very, very simple, in my opinion. If you have any questions, please throw them in the comments. I know that I'm covering VPN technology and this type of stuff, Tor and everything a little bit quick. This is going to be a very jump right in type of learning, and you're just going to have to accept that. So how SOCKS proxies work. Whoops, if I can spell. Yeah. So a SOCKS server is a general purpose proxy server that establishes a TCP connection to another server on behalf of a client, then routes all the traffic back and forth between the client and the server. It works for any kind of network protocol on any port. SOCKS version 5 adds additional support for security and UDP. SOCKS 5 versus SOCKS 4. SOCKS 4 only supports TCP applications, while SOCKS 5 supports TCP and UDP applications. There's a big difference. It is nice if you're trying to work with a UDP app to use SOCKS 5. However, because of the fact that SOCKS 5 also supports various authentication mechanisms and domain name resolution, which does not go with SOCKS 4. The outgoing SOCKS 5 proxy is normally SOCKS 4 proxy. Okay, so we've got SOCKS proxies kind of understood. There's a bit more to learn about that, though, because, for example, you don't even know how to use a SOCKS 5 proxy. So that's going to be important information. How to use SOCKS, if I can spell, how to use SOCKS 5 proxy. So basically, SOCKS 5 proxies enable you to mask an IP address, and it also enables you to have some privacy. Okay, that's a key component, and you'll have an idea to know whether you should be using like a SOCKS proxy or VPN, and then also when you may be using both. If you want a lot of protection between you, obviously the more proxy chaining you can perform, and the more like in-depth your mitigation between you and the destination, that's better. I mean, it's kind of like putting more and more layers between yourself and the target. So let me look up SOCKS chaining or proxy chaining. SOCKS chain proxy, proxy chains, proxy chaining. That's it. So proxy chaining involves forwarding traffic from one proxy server to another. This method leverages your existing proxy servers with no additional changes to the network. It's a quick and easy way to forward your traffic to the Zscaler service from an existing on-premise proxy. So obviously, when we're talking proxy chaining, we're not talking about one specific technology. So like throw out the whole Zscaler service, throw this out the window. Proxy chaining is when you're taking your proxy traffic and putting it through another proxy and another proxy and another proxy. So maybe they have a good image here, or maybe they don't. They may not have a good image. Okay, so here, let's do this then. So internet client, server A, that's a proxy server. Firewall, internet, server B. Here we go. This is proxy chaining. This is where you are the computer client right here. You're connecting to a proxy server. That proxy server is connecting to another proxy server. That proxy server is connecting to another proxy server, and then you're reaching the internet. So effectively, to trace an attack back from the internet, you have to go back to this host, and then you have to find inside this host's IP logs this IP. And then on this server in IP logs, you have to find this IP. So you go from this server back. Then you have to find this main guy's IP address in these logs, and then you trace it back. So can you trace an attack that goes through a series of like proxy chaining? Yeah, you can, because you're tracing the attack back from this internet server over here to the proxy server 1, proxy server 2, proxy server 3. Now you could make that backwards, because technically the proxy server 1 is to the attacker. So the attacker uses proxy server 1, then proxy server 2, and then proxy server 3. That's how I would look at it. Is it's from the connectors side, right? So And when you're working this backwards, you don't know the numbers, because like as far as you know, when you're inspecting this and doing like a forensics research, you're going back. So from this way, you might start counting proxy server 1, proxy server 2, proxy server 3. Do you get what I'm saying? Because like you don't know that this is the third one, and then there's more. I mean, honestly, there's really no good way that works. Like I don't think that I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I don't even know how the fuck people label this shit. Like, is it proxy server 1 from internet, and then proxy server 1 from attacker, like from client? I mean, I guess that's how I would say it, is like proxy server 1 from the client, and then proxy server 1 from the server. You could say that. That stuff gets a little bit more advanced, and so I just want you to understand, though, that you can put different proxies between your computer and the target server or target servers. Now, is there going to be an increase in latency? There could be. Yeah, so there could be more latency. Could there be packet loss? Well, sure. So it's going to be a little bit obvious at a certain point in time when you're chaining long enough that you're on one of these. And another thing too is, let's say your proxy server is operating on a common SOCKS port, right? So default SOCKS port. Let me show you something, okay? Default SOCKS port is so default port number is 80. SOCKS 4 default port number is 1080. So let's take a little sneak peek here. Tunneling proxy default port number is 80. That's what it is, right? So that sounds more familiar to me. So SOCKS 4 port is 1080. SOCKS 5 port is 1080. So what could you do as a server to protect against these SOCKS chains? Well, you could just go ahead and check when a user connects to your server. Do they have port 1080 open? If the connector has port 1080 open, we could just blacklist them, right? Yeah, that's going to take out any SOCKS proxies for sure. I mean, assuming that they're set up configured default. So there you go. That's a great way to take that out. Another option you could also run, or I cannot talk. Another option too is you could go ahead and just see. Excuse me. You could see if they've got port 3389 open. Port 3389, that's RDP. And that's another way that people will kind of do this, is they'll kind of connect in through remote desktop protocol. And remote desktop protocol is that thing that Windows has all nice and lovely built right into it. A way for you to remotely control a remote desktop session. So what an attacker does is they create a Windows server somewhere out there, or they gain access to this Windows server, and then they use the remote desktop protocol session to start kicking off, they start kicking off attacks against you using this. So they might proxy chain, they might VPN, and then connect into a remote desktop session. Damn it, dude, I've got like burp hiccups or something stupid. But anyways, the attacker is going to go in to RDP. Now, like I said, they might SOCKS chain or proxy chain through, or they might VPN and then connect into the remote desktop session. From that remote desktop session, then they're going over and attacking. And to make matters more confusing, they might even connect into this remote desktop connection and then do additional VPN or additional chaining. So it can really get lengthy, the windows, the spaces that the attacker puts between them and the target. And obviously, the more IP addresses you put between the attacker and the target, there's more work to be done, because like each time that you're tracing that backwards, you have to go to another hosting provider. Maybe you have to get people to cooperate in Hong Kong, get people to cooperate in Russia, all over the world, right? So that's obviously a lot harder than if someone just uses one VPN or one proxy, right? So I hope this makes sense and that you have a good understanding here. Now, one thing I'd like to mention about Windscribe is they also have the Windscribe browser plugin. So I've got the option here to go in and get I believe that they have a Firefox. Yeah, so I would just go here and do the VPN for Firefox, right? I'd click here. That's going to take me to the add-ons page. And boom, I could just do the add to Firefox. Now, if I logged in, it would allow me to proxy my browser traffic, and then also I'm proxying all my desktop traffic here with this. So that gives me two layers. So I'm going through this, and then also through the browser, the extension. And so it would make sense for me within this extension to select maybe like a different location, like maybe Canada, as well as me having the Seattle, right? So that's kind of just a crash course on proxies. And let's see SOCKS versus RDP versus VPN. Let's see if there's other ones that people talk about. Types of proxies. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I can't think of a whole lot more than VPN, proxy, Tor, like SOCKS proxy chains. There's a lot of different types of proxies too, but yeah, that's kind of for the most part, you're going to be dealing with SSH tunneling. You're going to be dealing with SOCKS proxies. Remember that default port is 1080. Remember that remote desktop protocol port is 3389. Remember that SSH port is port 22. So port 22 is commonly being run on servers. If you don't want servers connecting to your servers, if port 22 is open, block it. If you don't want servers connecting to your servers, if port 3389 is open, block it. If 1080, block it. So I mean, really, one big defense that you can already put in place to protect your servers is block anyone connecting into you that has ports 3389, 1080, and port 22. If any of those ports are open, block that, right? And then let's see. Let's see if there's default ports. So, 443, but Tor commonly uses ports 9001 and 9030 for network traffic and directory information. Yeah, I honestly don't know enough about Tor exit nodes to be able to advise, but I'd be curious to know what ports Tor exit nodes use. What ports open Tor exit node? Tor exit node default port. Come on, man. Anyway, I'm not going to keep searching around for Tor exit node ports. It's a waste of my time. But I will tell you that proxies and understanding how they work, it can definitely save your life in the event that you're trying to hide your IP address. And again, none of this information is to be misused. This is strictly for educational purposes only. You have yourself a lovely day. Don't forget, Windscribe offers a totally free proxy, which, by the way, it does work on Linux. It also works on it works on Linux, it works on Windows, mobile devices. There's definitely a lot of application for Windscribe, and considering the fact that they do have a free plan, I highly recommend it. But do not use a single VPN in the event that you're trying to really take privacy as a serious matter. If you're really trying to be private and secure and hide your IP address, do not use a single VPN. Instead, consider looking into the idea of also using remote desktop protocols, SSH tunneling some traffic, maybe doing some proxy chaining along with the VPN, because implementing all of that using like a SOCKS proxy, VPN, Tor, and so I mean, I've covered a lot of different technologies you can use for proxying, and there's plenty to work with. So yeah, I don't know really what else to tell you to use. I'd say it's pretty typical. That's pretty common. Yeah, that's it. So I don't know. I really can't think of too much else. If you know of any other proxy technologies or ways that you mask or hide your IP address, please go ahead and comment down below, and you may be able to win a toolkit. I have like a huge pack. It's an archive full of 100 hacking tools, and it's all organized into a really neat little kit. It's basically just like an archived toolkit for you to be able to work with SQL injection, It's got like web security scanning, application scanners. It's got debuggers, disassemblers, and for the vast majority of the tools, a lot of them are open source. But it's just such a nice bundle. I would not leave home without having all these tools on a USB drive if you want to be able to do like maybe you want to do a little bit of forensic type work. It's got some of that too. So if you're looking to do recovery, I've got like a couple small little Linux distros right built into it and everything. So if you find yourself in a pinch and you really need to get out into the field, it's almost like it's like a Hail Mary USB. So it's just got everything that you could need to go out and start working on the stuff. And then also I'm going to be releasing some training into the very near future that shows you how you really can get started in getting your hands into hacking yourself, because you need to hack yourself to be able to hack anyone else, right?